Hi everyone, welcome to Python Web Stepping. I'm Mr. Ali, and today in this video I'll tell you how you can do Selenium automation on Google Colab. First I'll tell you how to set up the Selenium library, Selenium environment on your Google Colab. Then I'll tell you how to scrape a website. But the most important part that I wanted to discuss is that whenever we are scraping a website on Google Colab, it becomes difficult to access that data because whatever you do on Google Colab stays on Google Colab. So what I wanted to discuss is that how you can export that scrap data to your Google Sheets. So in this video, I'll walk you through step by step. So let's begin. All right. So just go to Google, collab.google and press enter, and you will see a screen just like this one. Okay. Now you can do is click on new notebook, and it's going to create a new notebook for you. Or if you want to open a collab, simply click on it, and it will show you the same window that you it will show you the home page. Okay, so now that we are here, you will have a similar window here. So make sure that you are logged into your Google account. Okay, otherwise you will not be able to access this window, and it will ask you to log in first. All right, so now let's first step is to install some libraries. And to install a library in Google Colab, what you can do is simply type pip with sign of exclamation. Let me just zoom it in so that you can see. All right, pip install Selenium. All right, now press the play button here, and it should install the library for you. First one will take a little bit of time because if you look here, it shows RAM and disk. First, it will show connecting because resources are not allocated to this Colab. First, it will allocate some resources, and then it will run your cell. As you can see there, it is installing all the requirements. All right, now it's done. Let me just remove the output. Let's create new Colab cell. Okay. Now what I'll need to try to import Selenium and try to run the Chrome driver and see what error do we get. Import, sorry, from Selenium, import web driver. Okay, now let's try to launch a driver. Okay, the reason I'm doing this step by step is because everyone will have the same errors, and you will know how to solve them. Okay, just need to follow all the steps just like I do. Okay, so if you look here, it says Chrome is no longer running. So Chrome driver, assuming that Chrome has crashed. So you will probably get the same error when you're trying to launch this driver. Okay, so what we need to do is let's clear this and remove the output as well. Now we need to install some, packages in our Colab environment. This is basically Linux-based environment, so we will be using sudo for that, apt-get for that. Okay. Anyways, let's do that. Apt-get, and let me zoom it. Okay, I hope you can see it now. Apt-get and update. First, let's update the apt package. It's done. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to install a package which is Chromium dash driver. Chromium dash Chrome driver also works. It's going to recommend me to, note Chromium dash Chrome driver, but you can simply, if you do Chromium dash driver, it's going to work as well for now. Maybe in later updates, it is going to enforce that, but right now we are getting this note. All right, now let's move on to next cell. Let me remove this output. Sorry. All right, now let's create our driver. If you remember, I have Google Colab, I think blog that I've shared before that you can use to, you can follow to set up the Selenium environment in your Google Colab. I think I have it somewhere. Okay, so this is basically a blog that you can follow to set up your Google Colab environment. I'm just going to copy this part and go back to my Colab, and this is the one, I guess. Yeah, and paste it here. Simply run it, and it has all the required arguments in it so that you don't have to type it yourself. Okay, just create a new cell and try to create a driver. Driver equals to WebDriver dot Chrome. All right, now try to run it, and I guess I have proper. Beg your pardon. I was supposed to call this one, not that one. Okay. Remember that don't webdriver.com because you have to add few arguments, and here I have added these arguments, and it's going to run successfully. Okay. Now simply driver equals to webdriver and run it. You will see that green tick here. If you see that, that means your Chrome has successfully launched, and it is because it's headless, so you are not going to see it because it is running on Colab. Okay. Now let's move on to next stage, which is scraping our website. Sorry, beg your pardon. You are seeing this here. Maybe you will not see that in your Colab because I think I have enabled an API, AI API for Google. That's why I'm seeing this start coding a generative AI. Okay, just don't worry about it. Now let's move on to scraping a website. In this case, I'm going to scrape, let's say, bookstart to scrape. Let's copy this link and go back to our Colab. Let's wait until it loads. Anyway, all right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do driver.get, and inside of it, I'm going to pass this link. Simply run it, and it has, loaded that page in its driver. Now let's create a new cell and try to print that page source, driver.page source. Okay, so as you can see that this is basically the output. This is all the text that HTML of that website. Let me clear the output and try to get something that I want. Let's go to this page and try to have a look what we will need. Okay, right now we have 50 pages, and each page has pretty much maybe 20 items on it, 1 to 20. Okay, let's try to get something. Let's try to get some details. So this is basically article and class. Let's pick this one and go back to our Colab, try to. So in this case, I'm going to do driver.find element. This case, I'm going to get elements. Here I'll need by, which is supposed to be, I'll tell you in a minute. I'm going to use export. So in this case, I'll use by.export. I'll have to import by as well. So I'll import that in a moment. Anyway, let's get back here. Try to copy this with article, article article, and paste it here. Try to run it, and it's going to tell me that by is not defined. Let's go back in the top where I have imported the Selenium. Let's try to add from Selenium dot. Okay, from selenium.webdriver.common.by import by. Okay, just simply hit it and it's going to import by from that. Now you can simply run it and it's going to print all the elements that are located on that page, right? All right, now let's try to save it in containers. Run it again. Now let's create a new cell and try to loop over these containers and get the text that we need. Okay, for container, in containers. Now let's get back to our store and try to see what we can get. In this case, we can get the image. I think we can get the image from here. That's fine. And the link and also the title and the price. Okay, let's do that. So in this case, I'm going to call it image and container dot export. Sorry, find element. And in this case, I'm going to use, if you look here, I'm using element, okay, because I'm expecting one element, so it should be one. It should be find element instead of elements. All right, now sam by dot export, and now I'm going to type the export here, which is supposed to be, start with dot / div, and this is what I copied from that HTML. And now the next one is and the next one is image. Okay, let's get back to this one /a/img. Right, let's try to print it, but to get the attribute you need to get attribute. Okay, and here it's supposed to be href. Let me just move this to next row so that you can see properly. All right, so if you look here, we are going to pass the XPath. Okay, so what happens here is that by .xpath, I'm passing this XPath, and then I'm getting the attribute from it. So let's try to print it. Print and match. Okay, so I didn't get the image. Let's see what we did wrong here. Div class image and img. Okay, so this is basically div, and so because the reason we didn't get it because it's supposed to be the source, not the href. Let's get back to our column and try to get the source. Now run again, and as you can see that we have got all the images of each of the book. If you click on it, we will see the image of the book. All right, let's get back to getting more details from that page. Okay, the next thing I'm looking for is the title. So the title, before that, let's get the link of the product. So link equals to, so I can use the same slide changes here. Let's change it to, because we are getting href from s, let's remove the image. Here I'll need href, so let's get the href. Now simply type link. And you will see that we will get both of them. This one is the image link, and this one is the product link. All right, let's move on to the next item, which is I guess price and title. So this is the title. From h3 I can /a I can get the title. So let's get back here and get the title. Let's use this one again. And this time it's not supposed to be div class, it's supposed to be h3/a, right? h3/a, and it's supposed to be the text. And to get the text, you don't need to, do this. You just need to do this. Okay, let's print the title only and see if we can get the title. Okay, if you look here, we are getting the title. Zoom out a little. All right, so let's try to get one more thing, which is price. And I'm going to use this part as well. And let's get back here. Where is the price? If you click on this thing and navigate to the product, as you can see that we have product, price, stock availability, and price color in it. So you can do is that let's just pick P and class, and we will get the price. I'll get back here, and in this case I'm going to do P, I guess, right? P, yeah, P with class, and then okay, it's right next to it, so we don't need to do anything else. Just do text and we will get it. Now it is supposed to be price, so let's run it. Okay, as you can see that we are getting the price, sorry, title and the price. Okay, now if you want one more thing, we could get the stock availability as well. Let's get this as well. It's just same, so let's do it. Copy this, sorry, and this is stock. And in this case, it's not P price, it is probably stock availability. Let's copy it and paste this one here. I think rest should be same. And now it is the stock. Run it. Okay. As you can see that we are getting the title, price, and stock as well. And we have tested the image and link, so both of them working fine. Okay. Now let's move on to saving the data to Google Sheets. At this point, we are getting image, link, title, price, and stock. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save these things to a Google Sheets sheet. Okay, so let me just collapse this. I think double click should do. It's not. Anyway, let's try to create a new cell here. And now I'll need a library which is gspread. So install that using pip. Let me zoom in again. Pip install gspread. Run it. And it's going to install for you. I have already installed it, so it's showing me requirement already satisfied, and it will successfully install in your notebook as well. Okay. All right. So let me just remove the output and create a new cell. All right. If you look here, we have installed spread. Now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use Google authentication, built-in Google authentication method to authenticate, get access to my Google Sheets and Google Drive, and try to create new Google Sheet. It sounds complicated, but it's very simple and it's very simplified. Usually what we do when we are trying to connect to Google Sheets using a Python script from local drive, we go to Google Cloud and then we create, enable Google Drive API and Google Sheets API. Then we create authentication JSON file, and then we load that JSON file into Google credentials, and then we are able to access Google Sheets. So in this case, it's very simple and very, friendly, user friendly. Let me just quickly tell you how. First, I'm going to import from Google, sorry, Google.colab import auth. You don't need to import Google here. It's already imported. Now, next thing is auth.authenticate. You'll see that in the options as well, authenticate underscore user, right? Now, once I do that, it's going to ask me for permissions. Okay, so what you need to do is simply click allow, and it will open this pop-up. Just click on your name and click on continue, select all. See, it is doing all that API endpoint and all those things for you. Okay, so just keep going, and once you do that, it's going to be complete and it's going to show you that it is finished. It took 29 seconds. Okay, all right, now let's create a new cell, and let's try to authenticate that using now let's authenticate our gspread using this authentication that we just did. Okay, now let's do that. For that, let's import from Google dot auth import, sorry, import default. Run it. Cool. Now let's create a new cell, and now let's try to connect gspread with our Google auth creds. Sorry, let me just zoom it and score this equals to default. Run it. Good. Now let's create a new cell, and here I'm going to create gc equals to gspread, and inside gspread I'm going to pass, sorry, gspread dot authorize, and here I'm going to pass this creds. Once you press enter, it should authenticate your Google Sheet. Now let's create a new cell and create a new spreadsheet. gs equals to gc dot create, and here I'm going to name the sheet to scrape. Let's call it to scrape books. Okay. Once you hit enter, it will create a Google Sheet for us. Okay. Let's wait a little bit. Now it's done. We have created this new Google Sheet here, but to view the Google Sheet, you can open a new tab and click on these buttons. Go to your sheets, and you will see your to scrape books on the top. So you have already created the Google Sheet using Python on Google Colab. Okay, let's try to save the data to Google Sheets here. but let me. I think uh, I have restarted the kernel. I was having an issue, so let me just run the whole thing again to make sure that everything works fine. I think it's already installed. This one, let's load this one and launch the driver. Driver is launched. Now let's run this one and this one and this one. Okay, so as you can see that everything is working fine. Now I think GSpread is already installed, so let's try to save some data to this Google Sheet. So if you open our sheet, you'll see that we have sheet one already created. So let's select that sheet, gs dot sheet one. It is already selected, and the simplest way, I guess, is to simply append the sheet. So if I append it, so I think it is append row, and inside of this we can pass a list. In this sorry, in this case, let's call it this is uh, first row. Let's try to append it. And as you can see that updated range, A1 to D1, updated rows, columns, and everything. Let's go back to our sheet and you will see that that is updated. Let's try to remove this one and go back to our Colab and try to save this data to our Google Sheet. We have already selected the sheet. I can use this parameter sh variable, and here I am going to link title, price, and stock. Okay, and we don't need to print it, I guess. All right, so let's try to run this cell and see if it writes to that Google Sheets file that we have created. It is running, and meantime you can see that it is writing everything to your Google Sheets. So this is basically how you, right now we have 20 elements only, that's why it's writing 20. But if you want to write more than that, you can simply, right now we are creating containers for only one page. You can loop over different pages to get to the end and write all the elements to that Google Sheet using this GSpread library and Python and Google Colab. Let me go over this, go through this again. First, you are going to install Selenium. Then you will install this Chrome driver. Okay, once you do that, make sure you set these options, because if you don't, first if you install this one and try to launch this Chrome driver, it's not going to launch. Okay, because Chrome driver is not installed. Then you will install Chrome driver using apt, and let me just add one more row here, apt get update. This is also important, because if apt get package is not updated, it's not going to install the latest version of Chrome driver. Okay, this is very important. So first you are going to install Selenium, then you are going to update apt-get, then you will install this Chrome driver. Once you do that, you will be able to launch the driver, but make sure that you are setting all these options, because if you don't set all these options, it's not going to launch and give you an error. So once you define this method, you will have to call this method WebDriver here, and it's going to launch the driver for you. Next step is getting the, I mean, if you know Selenium, you should be familiar. Onwards is the same drill, same steps as you do with Selenium when you are working on your local computer. So just driver.get containers, loop over containers, you will have all the elements. Okay, now the next stage is to saving the output to your Google Sheets. So next stage is installing this GSpread library. Okay, this is basically an official Google Sheets library that is used to save your data into Google Sheets. All right. And after that, Google is already available, so you don't need to import and install it. Simply do from google.colab import auth. And from auth dot, this row is going to authenticate your this Colab instance, so that you can access Google Sheets from here. Okay. Once you do that, when you are going to run it, it's going to ask you to follow few steps, and you will be able to authenticate. Now, the next stage is, we are authenticated, and we have sorry, we have this. we have Gspread on the one hand, and the other hand we have Google Auth. Now we are going to pass Google Auth to our Gspread library and tell Gspread that we are authenticated, and now we can access the Google Sheets to edit our Google Sheet. To do that, we will simply follow these two steps, and we will create a GC variable. All right. Now the GC variable is basically an instance that we can use to create Google Sheets. And to create a Google Sheet, we'll simply pass gc.create. And once we do that, we have sheets created on in our drive with named as two scrapbooks. Okay. Now that we have it, next stage is sh. We are going to create a sheet with the gs start sheet one. Right now, what I did is that sheet one was already available, so I selected that sheet one. You can also create a sheet. Let me just go back and so if you want to create a sheet, let's say want to create a sheet. So in here you can simply gs dot create. I think it's add worksheet, and you can simply see we have few options. If you want to give it a custom title, you can give it. You can, if you want specific number of rows, columns, and indexing, everything is available that you can pass. If I want to call it, let's say, new sheet and run it, see, sorry, two arguments. Yeah, I need to pass some rows and columns as well. Rows, wait, one, let's call it 100 into column 5, right? So it creates a new sheet. If I look here, as you can see that we have created this new sheet and it has custom rows and custom columns. Okay, so this is how you create new sheet. Once you have a sheet. Now if you look here, I created this sheet and tried to append it, and it added this row into that sheet. So if you want to append two different sheets at a time, you can do that by creating two different instances and then appending both of them separately. Right now we have this sh. If you append this, it's going to append the sheet one, and if you append this sh1, it's going to append this new sheet. So if you look here, it has already appended this new sheet. So this is how basically you can, create new sheets and write and do all kinds of cool stuff. So if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe this channel, and have a good day. Thanks for watching.